Hi, everyone, and welcome to Wholehearted Parenting. We are here with Catherine B. Roy today. She is a best-selling author, CEO, and founder of Live From Your Heart and Mind. She's a heart and mind coach, human potential thought leader, awarded top 30 under 30 young leaders. She's an award-winning artist and scientist and Mensa member. I would be so bold as to call you a Renaissance woman, one of those people who is talented in so many areas. Welcome, Catherine. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is on mine.
So I want to get to your book, and we'll talk a lot about that, but I really want to rewind back to your teen experiences, because I know a lot of those really influenced your work currently. So can you rewind a little bit and tell us a little bit about what your experience was like as a teen?
Yes. Well, I am from the dysfunctional family. So actually most of my teenage years I spent in fear. And it wasn't so easy because I was also overweight girl, so usually rejected. And, I was lucky in one point. That's what changed my life, actually. When I was in high school, first year, my language teacher gave me a very low grade. And I couldn't accept that, so I was angry. Teenagers, they can react a lot on something which is injustice. So I was mathematical department in my high school. So languages were not my major. And I decided to apply to scientific center where talented young people work with professors from college, and just to jump over her and to show her that she was wrong. But the truth is I managed in that. So they accepted me. I had no idea anything about linguistics or psychology or any of that, but they accepted me on linguistics and psychology. So my whole high school, I spent mostly in the scientific center. And my first scientific work was published when I was 17 years old. And there I learned a lot about psychology and linguistics, and they worked with me because they knew I was from this functional family. So my first tests over there were that intelligence was very high, but my self-confidence was extremely low. And they worked a lot with me on that. And everything I learned there made a huge impact on my life later, because I got self-confidence. And it completely changed my life. But it happened one very serious period when I was a teenager. I was born in ex-Yugoslavia. And when I was 17 years old, I survived a bombing. So actually, we lived in the basement without electricity, very little food and water. So when you are in those age and you have no idea where you live the next day, it makes extreme impact on you as a person, and you just grow up. But all of that is finished, and I managed to do what you mentioned at the beginning. So I love to speak with teenagers and to say to them, whatever is going on and whatever you are living, it's going to be over. And you are going to be a better person because of that. So everything is okay, and everything will be just fine.
Thank you for that message from a person who has lived through it. I know, from my position that I've been in as a teacher, I can say that to students, but I have lived a very sheltered, privileged life in Canada and have not had to go through difficult things like bombings, like, a city under siege. I haven't. And so I know a lot of the students that I've taught have. Mm-hmm. And so for me to tell them everything's going to be okay actually seems really trite. So I'm so grateful that you're here with us to share that message, because you have lived it and you know that to be true.
Yeah.
Now let's fast forward a little bit and tell us about your book and what has really inspired you to write this piece of work.
Well, I always wanted to be a mom, and that was my biggest dream. Uh, but somehow things were not going so well, and the doctors told us that we can't have a baby. So we tried in vitro 2 times, and women go through a difficult period if things are so. So I started to learn a lot about energy and meditation, and I went to monastery and I spent some time over there. So from completely scientific person, I became a very spiritual person, you know. And I started to believe that really everything is possible. So I started the meditation challenge on Deepak's center. I was doing that in few series, and I really connected with my source. And at first, I didn't know what was that all about, but I have started to receive a lot of informations, and a note that I have to write that down. English is not my native language, but the informations were in English. So I was writing it probably because Oprah was speaking and Deepak was speaking, I don't know. But I was writing that down. Still, nothing had any kind of sense, logic to me, because I first didn't know what was it all about. And then all the pieces started to connect, because I was in Mensa, so I was working on intellectual development, and I survived all those difficult emotional periods, so I was in emotional development. And that is how Live From Your Heart and Mind was born, because I realized we are perfect as humans, but we have two sides, and we need to develop both sides, and we need a bridge for emotional and intellectual side. And only if we put those sides in balance and on high potential, we can achieve enormous success. And I tried it on myself. And what you mentioned in the introduction, it happened only in 2 years. All those qualifications and awards and all that came when I started to apply techniques that I have been receiving. So I wrote a book, and because I'm a programmer, I developed algorithms. And this is crucial for teenagers, because Live From Your Heart and Mind algorithms are questions, and they are like a personal guide. So actually no one is giving them advice, because only their source will know what is good for them. So after breathing exercises and connecting to source, they will get the answers on those questions, and they will find peace, and they will find a way which is good for them. Because I know they go through a lot of emotional struggles. They find love for the first time. Maybe that love is not on the right direction. Maybe they suffer. Maybe they don't know anything about that. So this makes things a lot of easier, because they will easy understand that. And the book is illustrated with little graphics, which are actually created by one teenager who is a graphical designer. And those are associative memory elements, and they remember them that way. So it's all connected, and it gives them a tool which they can use the whole life. So that's like a package for personal development.
Incredible. Now tell me a little bit about the way that we bridge between the heart and the mind. What are some of the strategies that actually bridge those two things together?
Well, what I always like to mention is a very important difference between emotions and feelings. For example, love is a feeling, but if we have fight with someone we love, we will feel anger or disappointment or any other kind of emotion. And that goes through processing through our mind. So actually, if we understand that emotion is a result of our mind, and that actually mind is the one who is deciding and not the heart, then we can find a solution to somehow use that mind in positive direction. So practically the mindset is a key. So we have to work on the fact that our feelings, the words we speak, and our thoughts are complete in harmony. Only in that way we will feel good and we will feel satisfaction. And then we have the connection between our heart and mind, and we can make success in any kind of field we wish to.
Now, when you were describing your teenage years, in how in high school your teachers worked with you a lot around confidence, and now that you have created this piece of work about connecting your heart and mind, if you could go back and talk to yourself as a high school student, what do you know now about confidence that you didn't know then?
Well, first I would hug myself, and very strong and very gentle, and I would tell myself that really everything is going to be okay. And I would just give myself a little piece of advice that everything is happening with a reason and there is nothing to worry about, because all the pieces will come together in the future. So even though I don't understand that in that moment, never mind. I will understand when the time comes. That's something what I never understood. I always wanted to know why things are happening that way. And I was always struggling. But of course, you are too young. You can't understand those things. So just let it go. That's the way I would go this time if I go back.
And maybe for our viewers who don't know, finish the story. You were struggling to have a baby, and now?
And now I'm mom of a 1-year-old baby. We're going to celebrate his first birthday in a few days. So everything happened like magic. We didn't even have another in vitro. I was preparing myself for the third attempt. And when I did examinations, it happened that I was pregnant. So he came like a blessing from God. And he is a very lovely baby, and we are all around him very happy now. So everything is possible, as I said.
Incredible. You have a new human being to prove it.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? You've done such incredible things, and you described having done those in 2 years, and now you have this amazing child and this book. What's up next for you?
Well, during those 2 years, it happened that I became a member of the Royal Society by Brian McGill and Jen Young, who are the founders of the Simple Reminder. So I was invited to Thought Leader School by Brian McGill, and I got a lot of support, love, and self-confidence around people who are doing the same thing I'm doing. So I decided to create a program, a coaching program, and probably webinars or something like that, so that people can work directly with me on getting to know Live From Your Heart and Mind system and using it. But also a group of programmers and designers decided to create an applications for mobile phones based on Live From Your Heart and Mind, because they tried it and they found it very interesting. So they are working on that now. So very soon we will have it on phones, and we can just play with that and find our way by playing, I don't know, in the bus when we go to work or something like that.
Incredible. I just love what you're describing about making that connection, because as a high school teacher, I could see that so much of our work was so intellectual with students. That's what we were required to do. And there are some initiatives and some some government initiatives saying we need to look at the whole person, which is great, but then not every teacher hears that message in the same way. And there are some teachers who know we need to use our hearts and our minds and connect them. And in some subject areas, like maybe the arts or drama, or I was an English language arts, a writing teacher, we can see the connection, in our subject area. But then there are other things that seem so intellectual, science, mathematics, that seem disconnected from the heart.
Yes.
So if you could imagine a future for what education looks like, how are we going to bring those two things together every day for students in schools?
Well, I believe first the understanding has to come from the place where the satisfaction is the key for creating a success. And the satisfaction doesn't come from our mind. So the only way that students can be creative, they need to be satisfied with what they're doing. And I'm sure mathematics and physics are satisfaction for maybe 2% of students, right? I can imagine that through, I don't know, maybe some kind of new subjects which will bring more creativity in the place in high schools. And there is one interesting thing. The results of the PISA tests showed that the countries which have the best results, and those are China, Japan, and United States, have the highest national GDP. And the point of good results on PISA test is associative memory, which I included in my book. And associative memory comes from Chinese and Japanese letters, because they are pictorial letters and not like we have linguistic letters. So that is fun, and really it's fun. So I know teachers who worked with neurologists from Mensa, and they included so-called NTC system by Dr. Rankoravich. So kids, even from preliminary school, actually draw every sentence of the poem. And then they remember those drawings. They don't know anything repeatedly, because repeating is actually not helping our mind. Remembering does, and association is something like that. And that is so fun, because they all draw. And in my book, there are exercises for drawing, because pictures are something that people remember well. So if something like that, something fun would be included, so that, I don't know, some kind of very serious lecture become, a drawing, they will remember it better. And for sure, it will create satisfaction inside. And they will get, more interest in the subject, and probably get more better results. And that would affect the national economies if, the system really starts to work. But I really don't see that coming.
Well, for some people, and for the viewers who are watching, if you're parents or if you're a teen or a teacher, check out sketchnoting. So just Google sketchnoting, because it walks you through a process of exactly that. When you're listening to a lecture, sketching out and doing drawings to help map out your memory. So rather than just writing words, sketching it out. So you'll see lots of examples. There's lots of really beautiful ones. And what I want to tell people is, it doesn't matter how beautifully drawn they are, because some look really great. Don't compare your artistic skills to that, because it's about the process of actually doing it. So if they're stick figures like mine are, just do that. So people can get started right away with creating building their associative memory. I love that.
That's it. Yeah.
I love that. Now let's go back for a minute to what high school was like one more time. You described working with college professors as a model. What did you enjoy about that process? Because I just think that's really incredible to have that opportunity at such a young age. And you described that, you wrote the scientific paper at 17. Tell
Yes.
us about what that experience was like of working with professionals.
Well, that actually didn't happen in high school. It happened during the high school. I spent some time in regular high school, and I spent some time, even 20 times a year, in the scientific center because they were all inviting me. And it's completely different. You know, it's a small group of students who are highly intellectual, and we have lectures from the college professors, we have exercises, we have, I don't know, psychological tests, we play, and there is one interesting story. They made two groups. I was leading one group, and we had completely free time, so we got our task, but we could do that whenever we want. And the other group got task, but they needed to do it at exact time. So we were free to go play volleyball or go to pool or whatever, and we were working whatever we wanted. And quantitatively, the results of my group, and we are all the same intellectually capable, were like 64% better than the other group.
I
So
love that.
it's more free, it's more flexible, and I believe that college professors, don't struggle so much with all the individual problems of their students, so they are more relaxed. That's also very important. So when they came to work with us, they were actually playing, and we were playing with them, and results were very, very good. So at the end, at the end of every cycle, we got a subject, and we needed to spend all summer to write, to do the scientific work, which we publish at the fall. So I published 3 in a row in those 3-4 years I spent.
I love how you describe what we would think of as working as play, that it was play because it just accesses that, it has that lift from like working to play, accessing the creativity that we all have. Incredible.
Yes, because
Now,
for example, in one moment they say, okay, in the middle of the lecture, they say, okay, stand up. We all stand up, and they say, okay, you come here in the middle. So you come in the middle, and they all pick you up in the air. So they all laugh, and then they put it down, and then we continue with our lecture. So it was playing.
I love it. I love it. Now, one other thing you said, you described yourself as a very scientific person, and then you were learning about spirituality. Do you see those two things as different things now, or have they come together?
It's all the same. It all comes to the same. Just the point of understanding things is different. I will just shortly describe one experience. In 2008, I had Coxsackie virus, and it seriously affected my heart and my nerve endings in feet, so I couldn't walk. And doctors found it very, very late, so they predicted that I will live maybe just a year and a half. That was science. My mom is a very religious person, so she took me to monastery, and I was like, oh my God, why are you taking me there? If they say that's it, But I went there, and I spent around 5 days or 7 days over there. I was sleeping under the open sky. I was praying with monks every day. I was learning from them. I first time got in touch with something which I cannot explain. And when I came back, my results were fine. I wasn't sick anymore. And that was like 10 years ago. So I don't question anything anymore. I love to investigate and to do, scientific things, but something else is probably more strong that we can comprehend with our thoughts.
So how do you describe science now?
A game.
Ah!
Because, when you go back, there are facts. And before it became fact, it was a hypothesis, right? So the first thing that became a fact was a hypothesis. So what if that first hypothesis was proved wrong? I mean, people invented everything. We created this world. We created, and you know, I'm a programmer, so I say to machine what to do. I created that, but that's not real. You know, we made buildings, cars, houses, everything. But what if we did it differently? So everything is very funny. And when they say that is absolute truth, I wouldn't be so sure about that.
So now when you think about your child and think about, you know, what you will say to your child, you know, as your child grows into a teen, what are some of the messages or some of the things you really would like your child to know that you have learned in your life?
Well, first, I mostly have a message for parents. You're responsible. And the way I see things, with what I didn't have actually, is that until my child is ready to go to the world alone with complete self-confidence and pure love inside, I didn't do my job well. So until that moment, my job is to be in front of him, to defend him if he needs that, behind when he needs my support, and next to him when he needs a friend later, right? I read that somewhere and that sounded like very profound. I didn't live that, so I'm not sure exactly how I will do. I know how I would like to be as a parent. And I only can say that I will give love as much as I can and support his wishes and his creativity, not mine, not what I want him to be, but what he wants. And if he doesn't know what he wants to be, then I will help him discover that, because that's very important. So he doesn't go left and right, you know, but just to know what he wants to do in life.
I love that. Now, before we wrap up our interview, I'm wondering, now that you have received the algorithms and you've been working with them and you're, you know, bridging your heart and mind, are there things that you do every day to take care of yourself in that way, to make sure that you are living that life of being connected?
Yes. First of all, I do that breathing exercise I mentioned. It's not a deep meditation. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it's more based on physics, because the breath inside goes 7 seconds. So it completely stops the mind of thinking of everything, because physically it can't think, because it is, you know, difficult to do that. And it goes out 7 seconds. It's very easy, and it brings you back to the present moment. And because I know all that already in my mind, when I have some kind of situation, I already know, if I do this, if I do that, you know, so I apply that to my everyday life. Every night before I go to sleep, I pray. That's something that I did first time during the bombing, and I never stopped after that. Before that, never I did something like that. That gives peace to myself and around me, so I can wake up in good shape to start a new day. That's it.
I love that, because it is so simple but so powerful, those two things that kind of begin and end your day.
Yeah.
So you're sharing with us, after people watch the interview, they can click on the links. You're sharing with us 3 chapters from your book, Live from Your Heart and Mind. Tell us a little bit about what our viewers, who will be readers, what they'll find in those 3 chapters.
I'm speaking about balance in life. Why is it important? And in the first chapter, I described what is balance in life, how we can achieve that, and I'm giving the first algorithm and formulas to achieve that. Also, the IQ training, which I haven't mentioned, but those are like little games to activate our brain cells. And second chapter, I speak about happiness. how we understand that, how we can achieve that, combining with previous balance. And its third chapter, it's belief. So we can combine all those things into starting to understand how we can create life. Later on in the book, there are other chapters about love and relationships and every important field that I think can really make a huge difference. This is like an introduction, more than introduction, so they can try. And if it works, they can see more on my website or on the book.
Incredible. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us today, for speaking with us, for sharing your stories and your insights, and for your laugh. I just know that when you are telling us that you can tell us about happiness, I believe you, because you are able to laugh and see the joy in so many things. So thank you so much for sharing your heart and your mind with us today. It has been so wonderful to connect with you.